Hey, good morning everybody. I'm gonna make a quick video here regarding the Pantheon pump. This pump's really amazing. It's battery operated, or you can even bypass the battery, go straight into the plug if the battery ever ran out. But it's a deep cycle battery. You will get more than enough than 1 day on it. And you just charge it every night and you'll be in good shape. So really wanna go over a couple helpful tips on this pump. The Pantheon pump, we have this designed just for us. We have it for sale and it's an amazing price. But want to go over how to clean it and a couple helpful tips. Number one is the A is the iso side and the B is the poly side. There are some manufacturers that have B as their iso side and A as their poly side. So just make sure, you know, your iso is your clear, your poly is your color. It's very important to have that. So, you know, even though the manufacturer has their A and B flipped, just make sure you put it in the right. If not, you can clog up the pump. So this is that's one of the helpful hints. And then obviously there's two ways you can clean it. Number one way is what they call a quick clean out. And that's if you're going to, you know, shut it down on Monday and be right back on Tuesday to go ahead and pump your material. If you're gonna wait more than 3 days, you should have a complete clean out, okay? So if you're gonna even shut down on Friday and come back on Monday, you can do a quick clean out. But if it's gonna be a 3-day weekend, you really should do a full clean out and call it good. So let me get a sip of coffee here. All right, so let's go over it. So you put the material in, you just unlock these right here and flip it around. And so this is the lids. You take them off and this is where you're gonna pour in your iso A and your B poly. So for example, if I'm pumping Metzler McGuire, A is the poly side. So even though it says B on it, I'm gonna pour my A into the poly side, all right? So something to keep in mind. So you pour your material in, you wanna get as even as possible in here. You always mix your B side, or I'm sorry, your color side, your poly side before you shoot your material. You don't have to do that with the A side. A side does not need to be mixed. And one critical thing you always want to do is get to your temperature of your material at least. I like to have it at 78 degrees. If it's cooler than that, the iso side can get thicker and you can go off ratio even though this is a 1-to-1 pump. I mean, you got, you know, for I think every 10 degrees, it doubles in thickness in a lot of the iso side. So very important to get material nice and toasty before you pour it, or, you know, keep a close eye on it if it's a little cooler. All right, so just a helpful tip there. Because if you do go off ratio, sometimes it can still cure, but it's gonna cure so hard, it's gonna shatter. Like you're trying to shade the joint, it's literally shattering, okay? So fill up your A and B. If you're gonna run with the lids on, make sure you open them up to create, you know, the airflow. I personally like to run with my lids off. And one of the reasons I like to do that, in case anything ever does happen, and I start to go off ratio for one reason or another, I can easily see it by looking in the tanks. You know, if I start to see a little off ratio, ooh, stop, what's going on? It's just, if you ever have to dig out uncured joint material, you'll never do it again, trust me. I made that mistake once, I didn't make it twice. So just a little helpful tip there. All right, so when you pour in your material, you go ahead and you have your couple on switches here, no big deal, you can easily see them. And this is where you pump the material right here on this static mixer, all right? So you put a static mixing tip on here and you're good to go to shoot your material. What I do is turn it on, shoot a little bit into a bucket and then drop it in and we're ready to go. One thing, just a little helpful tip, you know, don't ever hold it like a shotgun because you can have a little bit of material that went in and comes back out. So it's always a good idea to just keep it level, all right? And then obviously you sit too long, you go to crank it and it doesn't want to move. That means your material is mixed in your tip. Don't try to crank it all the way and blow the valves. You start to, you know, open it up and it's going, you know, your material's now, you know, locked into the stack mixer. You're gonna pull the stack mixer, put a new one in, all right? Real simple to run, super easy. We put little mods in here. We put A and B down here. We put black and white here just to really, again, identify what material is on each side. Okay, clean out. All right, we talked about how to run this pump. It's really simple. Clean out is a big deal, okay? You gotta clean it right. This pump will last 10 years, it'll last 10 minutes if you don't clean it out. What you wanna do is do a quick clean out. Again, I'm done for the day. I'm gonna come back tomorrow. I'm gonna rock and roll. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and close, my valves, take my tip off. I'm gonna go ahead and fill up my A and B. You don't wanna leave air in the ISO side, because if you do, you're gonna get rings. And those rings with air, they'll cure out and they'll just become a headache for you. So you always wanna bring the A, and I always bring the B up too, okay? So I bring my A and B up, fill my material up. I put plastic on here and then put the lids on. So I put plastic on here, a little plastic, trying to minimize any air that can get into the tanks. Air is the killer. Really not on the poly side, but on the ISO side, it's a killer, all right? It actually will harden up without the B side, and if you get a little bit of that hardening happening, it's like, stuff in your arteries, the plaque in your arteries, it'll eventually just make things start to go off ratio, and then you're replacing the hoses and maybe the pump. So really important, fill it up A and B, all right? So once you're done, you do that, you go ahead and put grease on the tips here. You see these tips right here? You're gonna grease these. So you're gonna open the valve up, grease here, close it, grease here on this tip, let it come out, close it, open this back up, grease where you see grease come out here on the tip. So when you do that, you open it back up, grease it out, and you grease here and it comes out. And then what I do is I take a little bit of the grease, put it around the thread, and put the thread back on, all right? That's a quick clean out. You're ready to go for the next day. Now, again, if you're gonna be more than 3 days, I recommend a complete clean out. And when I say complete clean out, I mean on cardboard or some plastic. Don't do this on the concrete because some of the stuff that we use will stain the concrete. I like to use cardboard because it'll soak up stuff if I spill, instead of plastic where I'm stepping in it and getting all over. Cardboard's my friend. I mean, if you really want to get crazy, put some plastic down and cardboard on top, but typically I just use some cardboard if there's any available. So just have a good work area, don't make a mess. Okay, complete clean out. So what you're gonna do with a complete clean out is pump out your A and B back into the buckets, all right? Your ISO and your poly. And what's really unique about this pump is it has these valves where you can easily open them up, put your 2 buckets there, crank it up, get it out efficiently and quickly. Once it's out, boom, you'll see it sputtering, close these up. We're gonna put Xylene into the tanks, or there's Xylene substitutes out there for areas that you can't buy Xylene, okay? Those will work too. But Xylene is your best friend on this. So you put Xylene in here, just overfill it. There's a couple filters in here. You wanna overfill it about a couple inches. Start the cycle process. So what we do, put the Xylene in, we open the valves back up, and we make sure that we come over here and we cycle with the white and the black, the poly and the ISO. Put it up like here, open these valves, and we're gonna circulate it for 10 minutes, okay? Once you circulate it for 10 minutes, not 15, not 20, not 5, 10 minutes is the sweet spot. It loosens everything up, gets everything soft, and it does a really good job cleaning the pumps and the lines. So once you do 10 minutes, you turn this off. The valves are obviously, you turn it off first here, and then close your valves. And then you go ahead and get a bucket, and you're gonna pour all the Xylene into the bucket. So you just open this up, open your valves up, crank this open, get all the Xylene into the bucket. And then once the Xylene's in the bucket and sputtering out, you got most of it out of the line. You don't have all of it, but most of it. We recommend, there's other manufacturers that recommend motor oil. We recommend just an inexpensive vegetable oil. You can get at Walmart or something like that. A couple reasons, a little more environmentally friendly than a motor oil. And we found that some motor oils over time can mess up some of the rubbers and stuff like that inside the pumps. So they have certain detergents that are not super great for it. So vegetable oil is the best way to store this pump. And so what we do is we pour the vegetable oil in your A and B, and you get it probably about an inch or 2 above the filters that are in there. And then from there, you're gonna push that vegetable oil through the line, removing the remaining Xylene. And then you wanna see pure vegetable oil going out. So you just do that, open up the valves. Again, that bucket that had the Xylene in it, you just use that one. Crank it open. Once you see the vegetable oil coming out nice consistently, shut it off, turn the valves off, and you're ready. that you got everything done. Now what you want to look in the tanks, if it went below the screens, you may put a little bit more oil in here to get it above these two screens. You just want it to, you know, a ½ inch above those screens is really important. That way no air is getting into the lines. After you have the vegetable oil through the lines coming out of the valves, we're gonna grease. We're still gonna grease. It's just always a good habit to grease. So again, we're gonna put the grease gun on here on these fittings. What I do is I open this valve, I push up my grease until it comes out here, close the valve. I do the same thing here, put my grease fitting on, my grease gun on this fitting, pump it out. And then here on the in the ends, I unscrew this, do the same thing. I wait for the grease to come out, I get around my finger, I put it around those threads and then screw it back on. And the reason we do the threads is because it really helps become a bond breaker. If you have a little bit of that isocide that's gotten in the threads, it's a booger to get off, man. It's really difficult. And sometimes you're messing up the, you're definitely messing up the threads, you're messing up the nut. It's just, sometimes it's impossible to get off. So if you ever have a manifold issue, this is the manifold. We have different parts, it's easy to replace, you know. So if this goes bad, you're only replacing this part, not everything else, and the fittings. So there's a lot of individual parts here that you don't have to replace the whole assembly, which is really nice. So that's the Pantheon pump in a nutshell. It's a great, reliable pump. I mean, people do millions of square feet, linear feet with this pump, and this pump is easy to work on, easy to clean out. It literally takes, you know, about 12, 13 minutes to clean it at the end of the shift. When you're doing a full clean out, it literally takes about 3 minutes to clean it with a quick clean out. So very efficient, and if you guys have any questions at all, Pantheon sells a rental, give us a call. Thank you.